Let's talk about this article I read, which was on Huffington Post, I think. I was kind of curious on your take on this. This article says, too much obsession with food, that we're a society that's become too obsessed with food. It's by a woman named Lisa Turner. And she says, I had to wonder, does it make sense to get worked up about food? Admittedly, my viewpoint is skewed as a food writer and intuitive eating coach. My intuitive eating coach just quit. So I'm a little distraught. I don't know about you. I'm now eating from my head.
Mine's
much
full
too much.
effect.
No, yeah, yours are fine. No, I'm just eating from my head constantly now. I can't get past my head. But anyway.
Do you hear voices?
No. I'm seeing math formulas. So I spend my days, she says, creating recipes, researching food. But still, I don't think I'm alone. We're just generally all hot and bothered by food, on and on and on. And it's just too much. I wonder what would happen if we stopped being so worked up about food. What if we stripped our meals and our clothing sizes of their supposed power to extend our lives, fix our problems, and make us thinner, happier, somehow better? I wonder if not getting worked up about food and being more matter-of-fact about our meals is one of the first steps on the way to eating intuitively. Now, let's just put aside the sheer stupidity of the idea of eating intuitively, whatever the fuck that means, and the complete fact that it's gibberish in any language.
I don't think
English.
we want people to eat intuitively.
I think we just want them to eat.
Yes.
Eating is one of those things.
I
like,
think we want them to
right.
think about what they put in their mouths.
I don't even know what that means to eat intuitively. It's not English. It just, you can take any adverb and stick it there or adjective, and it would make just as much sense. But anyway, so are we too obsessed with food?
I don't see how that's possible. I think people should think about what they eat, what they put in their bodies, whether it be something based on calories or health or portion control or just sheer deliciousness, and experimenting with different cuisines, ethnic cuisines. I think people should think about it. I grew up in Los Angeles, and it wasn't a great restaurant town until the 80s, really. And, there was the stock French restaurant we all went to on La Brea.
Right.
A lot of institutionalized Mexican restaurants. There probably were some really interesting Latin American joints. I didn't know about them until I got much older, and my palate became more sophisticated, and I became more curious.
Yeah.
I don't see how the obsession is a bad thing.
I don't see. Yeah, I'm not. I agree that it's an obsession, and it seems to be growing more intense. I think the fact that we're doing this particular show is some evidence of that. But I actually think it goes further than that. That there's something that maybe what I was really thinking about last night was that food, in some ways, and what's going on in food, has really become the center of cultural creativity at this moment in our culture. Because it's certainly not in the, obviously there's always wonderful artists and always those are wonderful musicians, but in terms of what people are really excited about and talking about, and that really kind of generates that kind of enthusiasm, it's really food. And I think, and it's not just because of the Food Network and because it's obviously on television, all that, it's because there's something really happening globally, and especially here in Los Angeles and New York, that's incredible. And I think it has to do with the fact that we're living in a world where at least part of it has to do with the fact that people's lives feel that they've spun out of control, and they have no control over their political environment. They can't talk to some guy without getting into a huge argument. They don't believe in the government. All those institutions have completely failed them at every step of the way. Mm-hmm. The economy has failed them. They don't believe there's no hope in the future. The environment is getting poisoned. And yet, when talking about food, you can control what you eat. You can control the environment. You can control your environment. You can have a direct relationship. You can talk about food with somebody who's a member of the Fascist Party or a member of the Communist Party or just another guy or girl, and still have a real conversation about it. And you can feel that you are controlling your world, and in a creative way. And that, I think, is something that's special that's happening because of the world we're living in right now. And when you look at what some of the more interesting chefs are doing, which is kind of finding a more direct pathway from the farm to you, from respect for the animal, a lot of the values that are meaningful to people that they no longer find in any aspect of social life, mm-hmm. public life, are being embodied in this one area, which is food. And I was at a restaurant last night at the Test Kitchen, which is a famous restaurant here in LA. They do a lot of experimental stuff. And the level, and the chef came over and talked to my table afterward, and the level of enthusiasm and engagement that he had for talking about what he was doing and where he got these ingredients and how he sourced them. I haven't seen anybody be that passionate about anything since, I heard some agent talking about how much money he made last year, and that is it's just a rare thing. And yet that's the world where I'm seeing that kind of enthusiasm. So I don't think we're obsessed with food. I think food is probably the last place that's left to us to be obsessed in a healthy way.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative is 30 years ago, we never even thought about how the food got to the restaurant, got to our plate,
right,
and entered into our mouths.
Right. We didn't. And now it's up on the blackboard. I mean, I think we're at the beginning or in the middle of a really massive cultural shift, a food revolution of some kind, that the pieces are sort of out there in some way and haven't been brought together. Though I think it's also part of the reason when I look at the Food Network, I think it's just such a fucking joke and so pathetic that this group of people who at one point were on the cutting edge of what was happening. And I'm not just talking about being on the cutting edge because it's hip or cool to be on the cutting edge. I'm talking about it's important to be there because there's important things happening there. And yet, what we see of the Food Network is the tush and some crazy marketing chick and some other idiot, critiquing a bunch of equally idiotic, no-talent people who have no relationship to anything having to do with food, performing like chimps for the camera. I mean, it's pathetic. And, I think the Food Network should just hang its head in shame. Every day when they wake up, somebody, it's like, it ought to be like in China, somebody should come by and slap them on the head with a stick. It's like, what the heck is the matter with you people? And here you are sitting on the top of the best franchise in the world that you're supposed to be covering this stuff, and yet everything you do is just completely just a fucking monkey show. And
thank God for Bourdain.
Thank God for Bourdain, and thank God for the Travel Channel. Mm-hmm. We really have to thank those people because apparently they're still waking up in these same universes as the rest of us.